One thing that overrides, and I think you probably agree with this as well, Dennis, is the fact that anything, any human interaction, any kind of petty squabbles kind of gets superseded by the music. The music kind of takes over that. If you have that in common, you have that theme. That's what really drives things, and it kind of makes all those. If you can express them and get them out and still maintain the level of respect that you have with your fellow players, then all is right.
I agree with that. And the thing is, money gets in the way a lot. Our band never made any money, so we didn't have to fight about that. It wasn't like, some bands get signed and then this guy's got they got a better publishing deal than the other guy, and he's pissed because this guy's getting only 10% of the song, and this guy wrote it, so he's getting 60%. And we didn't deal with any of that because we didn't really get to that, stage. But it really comes down to, like the guys, I've been really fortunate to play with, I pretty much played with 4 or 5 guitar players since I was 19, and every one of them is incredibly talented. And Cliff and Brian specifically are 2 of the kindest giving gentlemen I have ever met. Even if I didn't play with them, I'd still love those guys because they're just great. They really are.
Yeah.
And so they have my respect as musicians, but they're my friends, and I really enjoy spending time with them. In fact, gigs are gigs, and sometimes you have good ones, and sometimes you have bad ones. But those 2 guys, and Greg, I'll include in this as well, because I've played with Greg Schroeder for 25 years. But
sure,
we get together and we like to BS before the sets, and when we get up on stage, those guys are always prepared. I never am looking at one of them because he's had too much to drink, or he's not pulling his weight, or his gear isn't working, or he doesn't show up or anything. My guys I respect them probably more than anybody I've ever played with.
Perfect. And these guys, as you also mentioned, they're pretty much spread out, and we were talking a little bit during the last song as far as Cliff in particular is more based in Philly, and Starbelly, Bev was saying that she really never was aware of Starbelly back in the day.
Right.
And you made some mention that you kind of took it up to Philly area and played. You guys did Philly, New York areas, and you did a lot better than what this would be,
Which has been an uphill battle for many years with Baltimore.
Right. Well, and
I don't know why that is in Baltimore. So maybe because I've heard different theories that it's a blue collar town, and it's a beer and whiskey. A guy works at the factory, gets off work, wants to hear a Skinner tune. He doesn't really give a crap about here, and that your daughter's moving away in 10 years. So
right.
And our the only club that was around in Baltimore that featured original music was the Cafe Tattoo, which later with Andy Bop bought, and it became the Mojo Room. That was it.
Right. Well,
and then so there were clubs in Philly that we played, and we did, and in D.C. like the Black Cat, and then the other one in Baltimore was 8x10. They had us too, but we ended up going to New York a lot and meeting some good people. We ended up Starbelly was actually the Pat Denizio's backing band for a tour, so that was cool. And we toured with Warren Zanes from the Del Fuegos. So we met some cool guys and got to play a lot of good shows and things like
Absolutely.
That. But,
Now, see, from being Baltimore people, though, we one thing has always mystified us, and I made little mention of it a few minutes ago with you, is that invisible line in the sand. It seems to be between Baltimore and D.C., between Baltimore and Philadelphia, and I don't even know if it exists between Philly and New York, where there doesn't seem to be a lot of cross-pollination between the marketplaces. And because you've had these little more worldly experiences, maybe you can address that if that line indeed exists between, somewhere around Trenton, between Philly and New York City. I mean, is it that pronounced there, or is it just that black hole?
I think I know what you're getting at. I don't know. I really don't know. I wish I did know. But like for instance, I could go down and get a gig in Annapolis, and we could play all originals all night long. And for some reason, that would seem to be okay. But there were a couple. Again, there's a club like Fletcher's that used to be in Fells Point that you could do that. But
Yeah.
it was. I just don't know what it was. It's just, or maybe it was an intimidation factor, or maybe it was our fault. I really don't know. I wish I did. But
it's mystified me for years.
Because it seems
Yeah,
like
me
most
too.
people in Baltimore really do support live music and the bands, local bands, and stuff like that. So I'm kind of mystified myself, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, and I don't know if we've acquiesced, but I mean, Starbelly, we could play, 40 originals, so we play originals all night long. But at some point, I realize that I'm a musician and it's my job, so I do it full time. I owe it to the person who's paying me, in other words, the owner of the club, that I need to keep a crowd there and entertain them. So I understand that it's my obligation to play things that will keep the crowd there, and sometimes that means I can play my own stuff, because if the crowd that's there is there, and I know they're there for me or my band, then I have carte blanche, so I can play obscure crowded house song or an old Big Star song if I want to, or I can play an original. But then there's other times when I'm looking around, I'm like, well, I don't recognize anybody here. And maybe it's because I don't have the courage, or maybe it's because I've been doing it long enough where I understand maybe I better just play a Neil Young song right now. And I'll play a nice Neil Young song. I'll play something that I like. I don't play anything that I'm not satisfied with as far as material.
Right.
I don't play Buffett. I'm not trying to pander to anybody. I'll play it if I like it, and then hopefully you like it too. You know what I mean?
Still,
Actually, I noticed that the night that I saw you and Greg playing down in Fells Point, and you described the whole entire night in a nutshell. Me, who was requesting Starbelly, and or your own original songs, and you were not reluctant to play in the beginning, but I could see a difference in your demeanor when you announced, a song that was from Starbelly, and it was a kind of young crowd, so I'm sure that has a little bit to do with it. They seem to really know you and enjoy you, and they're familiar with you. But as soon as and this really disappoints me. This hits my heart every single time. That as soon as you go into you're playing an original song, which I'm in heaven, and then they're digging it. But then all of a sudden you go into a cover, and they start singing and dancing. That drives me crazy.
Right.
I mean, I'm glad for you
Right.
that they're responding to your performance.
I think he instinctively knows.
He does. He explained the whole evening in a nutshell.
But he also instinctively knows that he's
to take it there.
You're in the alcohol business. You're trying to balance that teeter-totter between being in the alcohol business and being in the music business.
Right.
And I really
well said too. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's really kind of what it boils down to, and very few people can get away with doing both. And it takes a keen sense of what to do when and what you can.
Well,
I hate to say get away with, or
but it's
just,
true. I saw it written all over his face throughout the entire night.
Right.